Let us start this lecture with a thought process that towns can consist of cluster of villages with specific culture and living style as in ancient India. If you recall that we started discussion in the last lecture about town planning in ancient India, of course, various aspect of Harappan civilization and their and its town planning we had discussed. If you recall that we were discussing last time about granary, which was meant for storing the grains, and if you look at interesting fact was that it was having some what you call air gap between the walls, and that is a very important aspect which need to be investigated why it is so. But as I had mentioned in the last lecture, that it is basically to control the temperature, and quite interesting that. And there might be some other reasons also, we need to explore it. Let us today, let us now discuss about other aspects like well. In the last lecture we discussed about private wells, and also there are instances of public wells which are large in size, and it will be having also a platforms, and which were found in the mound AB at Harappa. If you remember that mound AB I had shown you, and from here figure you can see that this is a well, which is of course the scale is not given, but it is quite a large a bit, and also beside this there are some pedestal here, like if you look at these are the pedestals which are there, and this might be there is also another pedestal here, and this pedestal might be there for taking bath, and also the washing clothes as is common in many traditional cities in Pakistan and India even today. I remember that when I was in college in a hostel, and at that time we used to use similar pedestal for washing clothes. At that time we were not having luxury of using washing machines. Of course, nowadays is very prevalent, very much there even in hostels. So, there is also working platforms found in Harappan excavation site. If you look at this is one of them, this is another of them, there is also one here somewhere. So, these are quite huge in thing, it is having a what you call circular in nature, and a vessel which will be sturdy in nature, and this you can call it as a basically a mortar, and mortar means it is can be utilized for pounding the rice husk or the husking the grains, and it was might be these might be there in the courtyards or maybe in a very big room, and if these are located in a courtyard, they must be used for public purposes. So, these are the kind of things what people found out during the excavations, and beside this there was a drainage system which was unique, and if you look at this I have shown you the drainage system here, it is having corbelling also. This is a quite large corbel, and what they found out, it was built in the middle of an abundant gateway at Harappan to get rid of the rainwater and sewage. In some of the cities, even today we do not have sewage systems. Now, government is trying very hard to garner funds from various sources, even from the World Bank, to build sewage system, and it was there in earlier days, and it is a very cost effective way of doing using the bricks. These are the bricks if you look at, but today we are using concrete for that, and which is not that cost effective, and also the durability is questionable for concrete. This Mount E and ET, they could find out some places to be craft workshop or the quarter, because they found out lot of debris which might have come from manufacturing certain items in the areas. If you look at I think these are the some of the spots they might have located here, some pedestal here and some place here, might be some kind of a furnace, pit furnace. They might have anticipated from these identifications or identifiers, and then they could have assumed that this might be workshops where people were doing crafts. As I had told earlier, we are having the cottage industries, which is a part of, like, not that industry will be separated out like in modern days. Earlier days it was quite simple thing to do, and then they were doing their home itself. And some of the things, if you look at the cell ornaments, and these are the beads, right, these are the small beads where people are using, stone beads, and there is a also like some more ornaments, and there is of course the stone tools and several other things, and people were thinking there might be gold work as well. But there is a one things I would like to show you, steatite button seals, which you look at. These are the design one, and this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the center is having, and there is a 2 holes here, one is here, one is here, what is broken, and these they might have used as a button, the what we are using for shirts, or maybe some kind of ornaments they will be using, so which is a very symmetric in nature and very well designed. So from these one can see that they are not having the buildings, but also they are having other state of the art design and development, and then of course the making these artworks, and which we call it, we can call it now in industries, at that time. If you look at this figure being made by basically Chris Lowen, and who was taken from the James Canoyer, who was basically researcher on Harappan civilizations. And this site is related to artistic conception of a gateway in Mount E. You can see this is your basically a gate kind of things, and these are lattice work. And of course, this is the middle, and the middle of this thing, what people are saying, this is the corbel Suarez system. I was wondering how, but if you look at it, is a very compact, like they are using their space on the bottom, there is a Suez system going on the top, they might be using as a road. Like we do that in today also, because I remember in Kanpur city, the Suez system was in trouble, they had excavated or dig it and to repair it. And similar things I had seen in Kanpur maybe 1 or 2 years back, in the middle of the road they were doing that. That means to repair those Suez system, which was made out of what you call bricks, right. And these are the houses, if you look at, these are flat roofs, and there is also 2-storied, and these are having doors and windows. Keep in mind, this is not the actual figure I am showing you, it is the basically people have conceived it after looking at the foundations and the remnants, right, and they could think that okay, the city could have been like this, okay, that is the thing. So till now we have looked at basically the town planning in the Harappan, and similar features are there in what we call other sites like Mohenjo-daro, and then several other sites. I will be not discussing about it, but now we will be looking at the literary evidence of town planning in ancient India. I will be just touching upon, because of paucity of time, and also it cannot be covered exhaustively. Of course, we cannot really rely on the literary work on too much about the getting the nitty gritty about of town planning, because it won't give you the actual pictures, as generally the literary works is little verbose. Even today when we are writing, we see that it is little exaggerated. But however, one can look at various terms and terminologies which are being used, namely like high defense walls, deep ditches, wide street, large portals, like busy markets, ponds and gardens and extra. These are all to be designed properly, like otherwise it will be there, otherwise people won't talk about it. And that can can provide the overall views about town planning. So, from this one can also make out that there was some kind of planning in designing the town and then placing it. If you look at the Rig Veda has talked about the houses which were built with wood, bamboo or thatch. In Stagati in Sanskrit is known as thatch, and even till today people are using thatched house, what we had covered in the lecture on rural housing. And I wish and hope that even thatched house will be coming up maybe after 100 or 200 years, once this petrochemical based economy will be vanished. And there is of course Ashtadhyayi, a grammar book written by Panini. He has talked about two types of words for towns, Udicca Grama and Prachya Grama. Udicca means basically north side and Prachya means the eastern side of this thing. And one can say that basically town may be consist of gramas or the villages at that time. And when he talks about town, he also uses certain words like parikha means a moat or a trench, and prakara is basically rampant, and dwara means gate. Like these are the part of the fort areas which will be fortified and these things. And beside this there are several Buddhist texts, and of course, in which Jataka stories will be there. You can find description about various terminology related to the towns. For example, like Patana. Patana is a port town. Even in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh, you will find this word Patana even today, which was basically Pali word or the word in Pali language. And Nigamas is basically market town, and Durga is the fort town. Even town also being classified, different depending upon their utility. And there is a Jain text Anupatika, which is also mention certain terminologies like parikha must be broad at the top and cut deep down, right. That means, if you look at a moat is basically trench, and it will be having a broad at the top, but bottom it will be little short, kind of thing, and which is obvious thing. And the prakara, the rampart must be built solidly and bent like a bow, provided with buttresses, but essentially support systems with the stone and the bricks, so that it won't be broken easily. It can stand certain impact load. And atalayas, the basin must be with the torana or the gate. Gopura is basically towers, and rajamarga, which we in present term we call highways, may have 3 to 6 junctions of road. And there are several other things are there also in this text, and several other texts are there, which I am just giving some representative kind of things. And if you look at Arthashastra by Kautilya, who is also known as Vishnugupta, that he says the grama means basically around a space of 1 krosa in length. 1 krosa means 2 kilometer. Even today the village also may be 2 to 3 kilometer around that place where the people will be living together, we call it village. And they were having also the officers for collecting the taxes and managing the towns and other things, and that is being mentioned in the Arthashastra. Sangrahana means a small town tax collector, which is consist of around maybe 10 villages, and Karbatika is a town which is around 200 villages, kind of together they will be taking care. And Donamukha is a big town which is chief administrator. Donamukha means basically chief administrator of a big town which will be around something 400 villages, and Staniya, who is also a administrator kind of things of a big city, which is around something 800 villages. So, if you look at earlier days, the villages culture were there in the city, and also city will be having certain fortifications because of getting protected from the enemies and other things. What we will be discussing now, some of the things which mentioned in the Chanakya's Arthashastra about town planning, and there is a regional consideration like what he prescribed that towns must be positioned in such a way not only to help people each other, but also to protect it from the enemies. There is also a problem of congestion in the town at that time, and due to the surplus people and which must be decongested. How it can be done? It can be done by relocating the people. And how it can be relocated? And he has given the idea or the precision, that is, the people can be encouraged to migrate to a new place which might be designed properly. And people will not go like that way, they must be given some benefit, and that benefit is to exempt them from paying the taxes for certain years. So, if you look at, we are also facing the same problem today. Most of our cities are populated because of migration of people from village or the rural areas, and for better opportunities and better life they are just coming to the cities, and that is being crowded. And of course, there might be several ideas which might be there in also Arthashastra, or we can generate to solve the problem of overpopulation of the city of the present days. And when you talk about village and town which will be newly established, he prescribed that it should be of high proportion of agriculturists and workers. That means, the new village should be consist of agriculturists, means farmers, and also the people who will be knowing agriculture. So that what will happen, you will be self-sufficiency in food. Unlike the present day town planners or the town dwellers, they do not have way to what you call farm the land, because they do not have land to till it or produce the crop, and it is not sustainable. And beside this, that is the one way to attract the people to come, because food is available, and then other thing is that market should be there, and where the sales of goods received from traders and on the highways, that means it will be connected to the roads, and there should be also the provision for the water. Therefore, it should be by the side of river or some canals or some water bodies should be around or constructed, so that the people should have that day to day activities with the help of water. Without water it will be difficult. We will be discussing about water and irrigation, other things in the next few lectures. The new villages should have a temples and garden. It should be planned properly, because these are very much essential for sustaining life. Arrangement for the aged and children, informal persons, kind of things they were having also. Aged means I think it is mean basically maybe for banapastis. Like earlier days people were taking retirement from their household work, and they will go and teach and also do some social work as a part of banaprasthas, which I had mentioned earlier. And they are basically to give back to the society, and this the houses or these things should be there. Besides this, cereals and the wealth will grow if the agriculture are kept busy. That means they are given more emphasis on the farmings. The attempts also should be made to protect and increase the quarries. Quarries means basically mines and forest and canals, water. So, if you look at, these are the limbs of the town and then also villages where the life can be sustained very peacefully and productively. Unfortunately, today towns are not being planned properly. Now, we can learn that integrated approach of town planning from them. According to the Chanakya's Arthashastra, city was used to be located central to facilitate trade and commerce, as I had mentioned earlier, not only the trade and commerce, but also the farmings and to protect it from the enemies, and site must be large enough and near perennial water body. That means, the water bodies which will be lingering, which will be there for all the time, should be there for selecting a site for new town. And also in old towns you will have to make provisions for that. And its shape can be circular, rectangular or square, or as to what will be suitable for that kind of topology where you want to have. And separate areas were provided for marketing of different goods. The protected walls were around the town, which is around something 3 to 6 danda high. One danda is basically around 1.8 meter, and there should be 3 moats for to protect the city from the enemies, 14 feet and 12 feet and 10 feet wide to be constructed kind of thing, which will be 4 arm apart, and depth will be 3/4 of the width. They have defined something, but there might be some changes here and there. 3 east to west and 3 north to south roads should be dividing each other. The roads should be enough. Generally people should have roads from east to west, so that it will be crisscrossing like grid kind of structure, roads which are not prevalent today in cities, because we do in a very haphazard way nowadays. And the main road should have 8 dundas wide and other roads should have 4 dundas wide. This means 8 into, if you look at something 1.8, it will be around maybe something 14, 15, 14 meter kind of things, right. And the bridges and forest parts should have 4 dundas. That means forest should be there nearby and bridges also will be there to connect. And 1 well for 10 houses, that is the precision what he has given. That means 10 house should have at least 1 well, depending on the people, the well should be there. And this is the some topology or the layout which is being given, but there might be several others also as per the Chanakya's Artha. If you look at the place, is palace is located here. This is your palace, and whenever palace is there, there will be temple, because it is a part of the things which will be followed. Beside this, there will be treasury kind of things here and some industries in this region, and there will be doctors, artists, all those people will be these locations, and also the goldsmiths. And if you look at this corner side is the priest and ministers will be will be there, and there is a cemeteries and also crematories, right, will be there this side, where you can dispose the dead bodies. And the forest and area, some portion will be there, and also the forest goods will be available in some places. But at the time forest is a part of their life, because it not only with the village, right, each village will be having their own forest which is being considered as sacred. So also towns will be having forest area, and there is a depressed class of people who are residing this side kind of things, and it may be amounts to be some kind of a system which was there at that time. If you look at this is we had seen the first phase of town planning in case of Harappan and then Mohenjo-daro and Lothal and other areas. But the second phase of Indian town planning was basically again commenced around 600 BC kind of thing. And there are several capital cities, what we call Mahajanapadas, were being excavated in recent times. Some of them are Kausambi, Rajgir, Kampa, Baisali, Kasi, Savasti, Achitra and Hastinapura, Mathura, Ujjain, Taxila and others, several of them. What we will be doing basically, we will be looking some of these things, selected one only. But let us look at general feature of these ancient cities. There will be fortifications. Fortification means, like moats, walls, gates, bastions and towers. These are the things are required for fortifications. And they use stone, baked bricks, wood, gypsum and natural bitumen kind of thing, not the what we are using today. These are from the trees and other forest we do get it, and which is eco friendly unlike the present one. Well planned road and streets, alignment of the houses with cardinal points and streets. That is a very important point what being observed in the excavation sites, and what we are violating nowadays. We can put a house anywhere we like, right. That was not the case earlier days. From the excavation site what we could learn, and system of drainage and sanitary provision was very much there at that time, and of course, the system of water supply in terms of wells and other kind of this thing, and people were using kiln burnt bricks, and highways were for long distance trade and communications, and what we call it a GT road, people say that it is from the second phase civilization, which is goes from what we call earlier days from Dhaka to the Afghanistan, that road which is the main points, and similar also southern side there is a road which was meeting this one earlier days, and is quite old roads, right. And introduction of course coinage was there, which we will not be discussing, but a lot of coinage you can see also in internet or other places, and use of iron along with other metals were a part of this town planning and kind of things. Let us look at the first city, that is the Kausambi, which is near Allahabad in UP, which was flourishing around from something 400 BC to 400 AD. And people found out a very long fortification wall around 6.5 kilometer, which is quite a big. During the excavation, they could find out the main roads that demarks the plan of the city, and every house had access to the road directly or indirectly by lanes. This is the thing they got from the excavation. And Asoka pillar was there at the center of the city, right. If you look at, this is the Asoka pillar which was there. Of course, nowadays it is a kind of a park kind of things here. Number of cross walls with door provided for the security, and if you look at, this is the remnants of some of the building areas, and which is looks to be well planned. If you can look at here, see it is a quite a well planned kind of thing. There, that might be some kind of a door kind of things here, and there is a stairs and other things is quite well planned, and it was having a developed sanitation system with disposal of sewage, and because they could find out like showcase pits and terracotta pipes, right, open brick drains and brick tanks. If you look at today, people are using other pipelines, even some kind of cast irons and then iron pipelines, and nowadays people are using concrete and some people are also using plastic. But terracotta is a very cheaper one, and we are not using today. We should use that, so that it will be cheaper and durable. So, that we can learn a lot of things from this ancient technology. Let us look at another city which was there in Bhubaneswar in Odisha, that is known as Sisurpalgarh, and which was flourishing around 300 BC to 400 AD. This is the estimation what they have made. It was having defensive wall constructed around first quarter of 200 BC, and it has a square plan, each side around 1.4 kilometer with a tower on each corners. This is the picture of some of the remnants, because now there is this historical site is being taken by the others to have building new buildings. Maybe in future whether people could government could protect this important excavation site or not, that is a one question. And these are the some of the pillars which are you can see, and a rampart of clay with basal width of 110 feet. That means, if the rampart, this width was a very big. Of course, the height is 25 feet, which is quite high. Was erected around 300 BC. Later on, what you call laterite gravels were added over the lay base. Base was the clay. The base was the clay, and then laterite gravels were being added. And of course, later on some people add the baked bricks revetments, and with both the sides of the rampart. And of course, as the people were using, then they will be improving it further depending upon the available materials. And large scale use of massive laterite blocks for the gateway, which were reinforced by the bricks boxes filled with earth in the next century. And the grid pattern layout for the roads. Road were having a very grid pattern, what is expected, what is ideal it should be. And entire area was surrounded by natural streams, and the streams means basically the water will be there, and water is very important for life. We do not really plan for that, and that should be, and we will be discussing about water in the next lecture. And Taxila, which is nowadays known as Sirkap in Pakistan, around 400 BC, this city had actually extended fortified masonry wall. The spinal streets run from north gate throughout the length of the city. Of course, the smaller lanes will be meeting the main street at right angles. And if you recall that this Taxila, where the Chandragupta was a teacher, because there was a university where he was a professor in that place at that time when the Alexander the Great invaded that place. The houses were defined and access to the road, and it was having a very good drainage system as well. So, this some of the layouts I have shown here. This is about the Taxila city at the time, what people have got. And if you can look at, these are all well planned layout of the houses and buildings. If you look at, these are the houses kind of things, these are, and this is the road. You are having main roads, right? These are the road kind of things, and these are side roads, and these are the maybe some common places, and it was quite beautifully designed town. And Indraprastha, of course, you will be knowing well, that is a very historian city, now is known as Old Delhi, and which is something 1000 BC. And always whenever Indraprastha we talk about, it comes to our mind Mahabharata, because it is the Pandavas which had built that Indraprastha according to our scripture. And this excavation revealed that this Indraprastha now in Delhi occupied by several people like pre-Mauryan, Mauryan dynasty, Sunga Sakar dynasty, Kushan, Gupta, post Gupta, Rajput, even of course, the Delhi Sultan and Mughal periods. And this I have shown you the Purana Kila, which was the place being captured by all the dynasty people or the kings, whoever try to capture the power, and they will be using that again renovating it also. And the houses were well defined and had access to the road. We will now stop over here, and then we will discuss more about in the next lecture, and I will be continuing this town planning of the second phase civilization. Thank you very much.